What does it mean to be Melungeon? In the mountains of Virginia and other Appalachian states, mixed-race people have long eked out a living, while questions about their intriguing origins have persisted. Multimedia reporter Billy Shields caught up with members of the Melungeon Heritage Association during a recent meeting.
One person's identity at one moment in history might be a different identity in a separate moment. The way you were raised and the things that you were told about your own background, how did all of that play out in your own life? You might hear the term Melungeon, and what would that mean to you?
I never heard that term other than my dad would talk about Ma Sally, as he would always say, is my great-great-grandmother. And he kind of give me this story of she was an Indian or Native American, and he would always describe her as having hair, real long hair that came down almost to her waist in the back, and he just always described that, but didn't go into detail. That was it. It's like pulling hen's teeth from him, try to pull this information out. It was interesting, but still I didn't know a lot. But I think my dad was interacting with the cousins that he grew up with and knew and visited with, and it was just something that I don't think he even realized that was a missing link for me. And actually, some of my work with him didn't know I was related to him.
Do you think it's a situation where there were things that maybe your dad didn't want to talk to you about? Perhaps this was a more complicated narrative than he wanted to go into?
My dad really didn't. I think he was more protecting me from a lot of the things and things that were going on during that time. In North Carolina and also in Virginia, just coming from the north to the south. We always traveled early in the morning. I didn't know why. Of course, cars got New York plates on it. He'd want to gas up in Washington, D.C. first and then make it all the way in. I said, well, why don't you say, oh no, I want to get gas here, not knowing that segregation and all those things were taking place at the time. Yeah. So he and my mom both protected the two young kids.
One of the things that you sometimes hear among the Melungeon community, some people would say that they're Portuguese sailors that ended up in the mountains, or Turkish sailors, that kind of thing. With the advent of genetic testing, has that changed the identity that's been passed down to you from your family at all? Or is this just, you've done the homework already?
I'm still seeking information. Finding out about this, it was just like overwhelming for me. It was just a lot. My cousin Beverly introduced me to a lot of the history and a lot of information, and I've been reading and talking to people and the like, and just to hear about the Melungeons or the Maroon community, so to speak. And I pay attention to people, especially in Virginia, or when I go to the western part of Virginia, or even other areas in North Carolina, looking at the bone structure of people, looking at their faces, the eyes and all. I say, oh, look at the cheeks, And I'm looking at all these things, and sometimes I have actually run into somebody that is actually Native American because I see a T-shirt that they may have, but they're not as dark complexion as I am. And I asked them, just strike up a conversation, and then here we go with, this is my heritage. But you can see either the European or the African or the Native American mixture in these individuals. And I pay attention to that now.
Different ethnic groups will have a sort of a cultural identity. Mm-hmm. How would you characterize the Melungeon cultural identity?
I think it's becoming more prevalent. People are talking more about the community as a whole. They're accepting it more, and with, of course, the internet and Google, people are starting to actually receive the truth about what really occurred. That history was purposely, strategically suppressed for certain reasons. And the theory, if you had just an ounce or less of either Native American blood or African blood, then they pick and choose. If you were brown skinned like me, you say, well, you know, he's black. They put me in that category, but you know, we're all kind of mixed up in that. But the community at large is starting to grow, it's starting to expand, and the truth is coming out. And I think it's really getting to the point where people are really curious. They want to know, but also once they find out the truth about this particular community and how the triracial community is actually all over the United States and actually all parts of the world, it's like, hey, you know, let's accept it. It is what it is. We can't turn back the clock, so to speak.
As far as your own ancestry goes and where various groups came from in your own background, did you ever go back and say, oh, okay, they came in through this area, or they've migrated here? In your situation, what did that look like?
I hunt a lot, and I stay in the woods. Well, why do I stay in the woods? And my dad even said to me, he said, you know, you've got that. You got it honest. Well, what do you mean you got it honest? Well, you know, your great-great-grandfather did it, and you know, and your great-great-grandmother, you know, she was Native American, your Ma Sally. He said, so it's in you. That's how I view it, and that's how I'm looking at it now, even today at 70 years old. You know, I'm trying to play catch up on who I am.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to VPM's YouTube channel. And head to vpm.org for more in-depth coverage.